Hi everyone, my name is Diana Huynh and my silver coach was Hannah Lanzalota. Today I will be presenting to you all my presentation, Water Yourself in Order to Bloom, my take on completing the Silver Leadership Challenge. For the Silver Leadership Challenge, I had to develop 3 goals, an academic, a professional, and a personal goal. For my academic goal, I wanted to try to push myself out of my comfort zone to try to set a goal that I know I am capable of, but would honestly never confidently try to pursue. Since starting nursing school, I had struggled with grades for a while and lost confidence in myself. I stopped getting the good grades I was used to getting and thought, maybe this is the extent of what I can do in nursing school. However, I knew deep down after a year in nursing school, I've grown and learned, and with a little extra hard work and studying, I know that I am capable of achieving the grades that I want. Therefore, for my academic goal, I wanted to try to push myself to achieve a 3.69 GPA for this fall 2020 semester. To break down this goal, that basically means I will try to push myself to achieve all A's and 1 B. Since starting nursing school, I have never received an A in one of my primary courses, but this semester, I want to believe in myself and set this goal early on and have something to work towards. Now, for my professional and personal goal, I struggled a lot initially to try to figure out what do I even want to focus on professionally and personally. I'm not sure if this is a case for everyone, but I know myself personally while in school, the only thing I focus on are academics, and often I neglect any personal or professional goals. But thanks to this challenge for pushing me to try to work on myself holistically. Therefore, for my professional goal, since I do have job interviews coming up early next semester, I wanted to try to relieve any possible stress. Therefore, my professional goal is to become equipped and ready to apply for jobs and take on interviews this upcoming semester through working on professional development, having mock interviews, and finalizing my resume. Last but not least, I have my personal goal, which was truly the hardest to develop because, as I've mentioned, I become so focused on school, I often neglected other aspects of myself. My personal goal was to start working on scheduling, such as scheduling in what matters. As I've headed into my final years of college, I've noticed that I've lost track of scheduling and making time for what matters. Therefore, this semester, I came in with the goal of becoming more organized again. I wanted to try to start off with a realistic goal of trying to begin planning for my week ahead of time by setting aside Fridays to schedule in my following week, making sure I make the time for studying, but ultimately self-care and also the things I enjoy as well. At the start of the challenge, I remember thinking, these are just fun little goals to try, but now, at the end of the challenge, I'm thankful for the push that I needed and the push to do something I normally wouldn't think to do on my own. To start off, I'm so happy and unexpectedly proud of myself for having the best grades I've ever had in nursing school. Although I won't know my final GPA until the end of this semester, I am proud to say I am on my way to hopefully achieving a 3.69 GPA for this fall semester. Having the goal in mind throughout the semester allowed me to remain tenacious. It allowed me to believe in myself and realize if I actually put in the work and dedicate myself, I am capable of achieving my goals. As for my professional goal, I know future me is already thanking myself. I attended career preparation workshops, learning about resume and interviewing tips. I also utilized the free resources available to me, such as UNCG's Career and Professional Development Office, utilizing their online and in-person services to revise my resume and begin preparing for interviews. Finally, I have my personal goal, which I'm not afraid to admit had a bit of a rocky start. Prior to this challenge, I gave up trying to schedule things because I always became overwhelmed with the amount of work I had to do. But in doing so, I often became more overwhelmed with the amount of work that piled up and lost time on doing the things that I enjoy and making time for myself. At the start of this goal, I focused too much on trying to schedule every hour of my day in, which was the wrong approach. I became overwhelmed and schedules always change, which led me to wasting time trying to rearrange my schedule. After I realized this tactic wasn't a realistic and long-term strategy I could use, with the guidance of my coach Hannah, rather than restricting myself to specific times for each task, I loosely made my schedule by listing in what I'd like to get done for the day around certain times. This allowed me to be free from the restraints of time and just focus on completing tasks as I go throughout my day and week. Thanks to this challenge, I genuinely feel at ease and accomplished. I now have a schedule that works for me. I have time dedicated to studying, I have time to go to the gym regularly, which I miss doing, and ultimately, I have time for leisure activities and to focus on self care, which I now realize is so important to be able to recharge and continue on. Aside from my goals, one big part of this challenge was completing the 360 leadership assessment. It was a different assessment from what I'm normally used to because I was able to ask for the input of professors, peers, and colleagues, which gave me a unique insight to who I am as an individual and a leader. Prior to completing the assessment, I remember thinking what I believe my strengths and weaknesses were, but it was so fascinating to see my results based on what others perceived are my strengths and weaknesses. For example, a competency I never paid too much attention to was self awareness, which actually turned out to be one of the competencies I was marked slightly low on. It opened my eyes to see how I see myself and how I actually portray myself. I also had the opportunity to speak to some individuals who completed my assessment and heard great feedback on how and why they perceived me a certain way. Completing this assessment and viewing the results allowed me to see myself from a different point of view, not just who I believe I am, but who I really am around others. With the results of this assessment, I truly feel like I can work on the different competencies, not just the ones I'm interested in, but the ones I really need to work on to improve myself overall as a leader to better serve and lead others. For the community engagement aspect of this challenge, I was able to choose a community organization I would have loved to serve. I chose Mustard Seed Community Health, a clinic located right in our neighborhood here in Greensboro. I was amazed that I have never heard of this clinic, but fell in love right away with everything that they do and offer to our community. As a nursing major, I am very passionate about the medical field, but primarily passionate about serving people. I've learned a lot about those in underserved communities and the lack of resources available to certain vulnerable populations, and wanted to find an organization that focuses on helping the underserved. Mustard Seed Community Health, whose mission is to serve the vulnerable populations of Greensboro, immediately stood out to me. They provide not only physical but holistic care for those uninsured and living at or below the 200% federal poverty level in Guilford County. I was compelled by their mission and the amazing work they do. Because, as a future nurse, I hope to volunteer at clinics such as this one during my spare time. There is so much disparity in our healthcare system, and although I may not be able to make a huge impact and change the system, I want to do what I can, especially to help those around me. After doing some research on this organization, I completed a SWOT analysis on them. For their strengths, first off, their model of integrated care they offer differs from many general practices because they provide holistic care, caring for not only the physical aspects of health, but also provide mental health care. Additionally, they were developed to serve our direct community, providing care to anyone, as I've mentioned, in Guilford County, primarily those with out insurance and living at or below the 200% federal poverty level. Healthcare is extremely costly, and without mustard seed, many in the area would go without medical care or would only see a doctor when their medical problem became an emergency. Another strength is the range of hours they're open. They're open Monday to Friday, but every Wednesday they operate until 7 p.m. This allows those who work a 9 to 5 job the opportunity to seek health after work, not having to worry about missing any crucial work hours. Furthermore, the unique range of staff they employ. In addition to the doctor, secretary, and medical assistants, they have an employee known as a community health outreach worker that is available to visit patients in their home setting, checking in with the patients to see how they're doing and helping them with issues outside of the clinic. For the last strength, I was amazed they offer a community garden behind their clinic. They focus on helping people overcome barriers to good health by offering regular access to fresh produce and a local food bank. Overall, what Mustard Seed is doing is amazing. They treat patients using a whole person approach, addressing everything that affects their health and well being, from emotional stress, poor housing, to lack of access to healthy food. Moving on to weaknesses, I was surprised to learn that they only have one medical director slash physician known as Dr. Beth Mulberry, which is a huge task for one person to oversee the care of hundreds of individuals in Guilford County. In addition, they only have a small permanent staff of 7 individuals. They have retired physicians, nurses, and community volunteers that help out regularly, but primarily 365 days out of the year, it's those 7 individuals who allow this office to function, which I see a plethora of issues that can arise from only having those 7 employees. Aside from what Aside from that, they depend heavily on private donations. 23% of funds come from patient fees, 21% comes from non-governmental grants, and the remaining 56% comes from private donations, which can be nerve-wracking, especially if they can't ensure that 56% comes in every year. Lastly, they don't have an employee that is solely dedicated to marketing and advertising the clinic to the community. From my research, their secretary makes graphics and posts on social media every now and then, but I believe to get more donations, more volunteers, and to reach out to more individuals that need this kind of service, they need a staff member dedicated to getting the clinic's name out there. As for opportunities, investigating their website, I noticed depending on the current health concerns of the season, they'll host community clinics such as flu shot clinics, COVID testing clinics, and I see the opportunity to expand these clinics and add additional ones throughout the year. For example, they can host a blood pressure testing clinic because hypertension, also known as high blood pressure, is a huge health concern affecting many of those in poverty. They also have the opportunity to expand the amount of volunteers they have by utilizing the local universities around them. UNCG's community nursing course does offer the chance to have clinical at Mustard Seed, but I believe there is so much more a nursing school can provide to them. And aside from just nursing students, maybe they can advertise volunteer opportunities to pre-med and other pre-professional university students. Furthermore, I noticed on their website they don't really list much information on how to become involved and volunteer. So they can try to redesign their website to make it easier for those interested in volunteering to become involved. Additionally, they do a great job utilizing social media right now, but there is so much room to do so much more advertising to reach out to those in the community that may desperately need this resource. Because prior to the research I did to find an organization to complete this challenge, I never even heard of Mustard Seed. Finally, for threats, a huge factor that affects many aspects of this clinic are finances. Due to finances, they have a limited staff of only 7 individuals. Due to finances, that's probably why they haven't thought to hire an extra employee that focuses on marketing. And due to finances, this is probably why they haven't been able to expand the community clinics they offer and branch into doing other community activities. Overall, finances can be a huge potential threat on maintaining the operation of this clinic. Lastly, I notice the influx of student volunteers primarily comes during the school year. So, what does this mean for their summer months? Their office is still open, but the amount of volunteers they have decreases. So, this can have a threat on the range of resources they can provide to their patients. To summarize, I believe Mustard Seed Community Health is amazing, and I truly applaud them for all that they do for our Guilford County community. But I certainly see much room for improvement to be able to expand their office and provide more care to the underserved in our community. As for my personal motivation, the why behind enacting positive social change, I came up with a list of reasons. First off, I believe it's a moral responsibility. I believe we have a moral obligation to care about what happens to our community, and because of that, that should be reason enough for wanting to enact positive social change. For me, personally, I think starting off small is better than doing nothing. I don't believe I can change the world in a day, but seeing what I have to offer, I can start off small and see what I can do to enact small bits of positive change into my community. For example, using my experience and skills as a future nurse to help my community. Next, the fight for equity is a huge personal motivating factor. What I've seen in our healthcare system and the lack of resources available to those in our community, especially depending on certain zip codes, was truly heartbreaking and eye-opening, and it led me to want to work harder to make a change. We often see the words equity and equality used interchangeably, but I believe with how disproportionate our healthcare system has become, we need to fight for equity and fight for ways to help those struggling to attain the rights, the resources, and the healthcare they deserve. My experience and my background in healthcare has certainly shaped this specific viewpoint. Furthermore, enacting positive social change gives me a sense of purpose. With the knowledge and experiences I've obtained, I can help enact social change, whether that be in my personal environment, educating my family and peers, or even in the work setting, spending time educating patients, championing for extra resources for patients to improve their conditions, and even as far as enacting conversations with employers to aid them in making informed decisions that can better impact the people we serve. In doing all of this, I believe I can see personal growth in myself and overall heightened self awareness. I believe it's important to not remain stagnant. With an ever changing society, I want to grow and change along with it. Becoming educated and more informed about what's happening around me can allow for personal growth. For example, in my future career as a nurse, I hope to be educated on what's happening in the community and how that affects my patients so that I can be better for them, becoming more knowledgeable about how to cater care to them. Lastly, I just hope for a better future through all of this. It's sad but overall motivating to see the current extent of disparity in our society. I believe I have a responsibility to better our today, but also for future generations. Seeing those I know around me and even those I don't know, such as classmates, struggle due to a lack of resources is saddening and something that personally motivates me to work for a better future. One where we all have the access that we deserve and that we need. After completing the Bronze and now Silver Leadership Challenge, I don't want to stop with the personal development here and want to continue working on the betterment of myself. Creating these three goals at the beginning of the semester didn't really seem like a big deal to me, but overall had a bigger impact than I expected. It allowed me to actually work on myself and work on the things I never would have on my own, which in turn, I believe, makes me a better leader. I become more organized and more disciplined. Moving forward, as cliche as it sounds, but moving forward with this newfound confidence and drive, I want to continue setting higher goals for myself, such as continually working on my personal development through attending workshops to gain more awareness of myself and what is actually going on around the world, and setting dates routinely to touch base with myself and see how I am proceeding with these goals that I set. And finally, utilizing the new skills and leadership abilities I have in the organizations that I am a part of. Moreover, a common topic I touched base on throughout this presentation was nursing, which is something I am deeply passionate about. I want to take the leadership skills I've gained through this challenge and put it to use in my future nursing profession. These skills can aid me in how I approach working with my fellow coworkers and healthcare team. I want to utilize these skills and hopefully work my way up to becoming charge nurse and maybe even one day unit manager. These goals are certainly long-term goals, but I can work my way up with small goals. Lastly, I always knew there were community clinics and resources out there, such as Mustard Seed Community Health, but I've never fully done my research and realized what a vital resource these clinics are to a community. It's unfortunate to learn how underfunded and underrepresented such clinics are. Therefore, when possible in a normal, hopefully one day pandemic-free world, I want to try to find more clinics such as Mustard Seed and invest my time there. There is so much disparity in our world, but hopefully through investing my time and energy in community clinics one at a time, I can at least better my community. I'm not afraid to admit these goals I set for myself are quite ambitious and almost daunting, but I'm excited to have a goal in mind and start somewhere. Like E. Russell once said, keep watering yourself, you're growing. I want to thank my coach, Hannah Lanzalotta, for helping me all throughout the semester, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.